It's your boy, U-Goboy. That's Mongo, all right? This is the U-Goboy podcast channel. But before we start, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We got unfiltered, authentic conversations. We got sports talk. We got drops. Oh, yeah. So, Mongo, what should they do?
Like and subscribe.
Oh, yeah. Yahtzee. The Browns making that move, not a big shocker. You know, there were talks a couple days out that the Browns were open for business. I love their draft haul, by the way. You know, I'm looking right now at NFL.com, their draft grades, and they gave the Brownies. The Brownies did well. The Brownies made out well. They got a B+ overall, but I love this haul. Mason Graham, trenches. That helps out. That helps out their defensive line. Carson Schwarzenegger, one of my favorite linebackers, tackling machine. I look at him as like a baby Sean Lee. One of my favorite running backs, Quinshon Judkins. All right, I wanted a star on his helmet so bad, but you know him going now to basically, for all intents and purposes, replace Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb. Sorry, drawing a blank there.
Nope, all good.
And they get their quarterback of the future in Dylan Gabriel. Then they get their other quarterback of the future in Shedeur Sanders. And, of course, Dylan Sampson as well. So I love what the Browns did. And the fact that they were able to move out of that pick, yeah, Travis Hunter would have been great for them. But I think this haul helps them more sooner rather than later. I think that Hunter's a unicorn. He's going to help you, should help you day one. But you give me some franchise players at 3 levels now, and the defensive line and Graham and the linebacker position and Schwarzenegger and a running back in Judkins. I take that.
Yeah, I think, you know, your dirty word for football is the G word, which I think will probably come up at some point when we're talking about these top guys.
Yeah, generational!
In just a few moments. Mine is, my dirtiest word is narrative. I feel that word's going to come up a lot today. That comes up every time we talk about young players. And, you know, some of the drafts that I did not like were those, including my boys, the Jets, who I felt the story got lost. I felt like I couldn't figure out what was going on. With the Browns, it was very easy here. We have Myles Garrett and 52 guys we don't necessarily feel belong on an NFL roster.
True.
If they could have found a way to draft 52 times, they would have drafted 52 times.
Yeah.
And so they made no secret about that. They moved down when they could. I mean, when was the last time a team double-dipped on a running back and a quarterback in the first 5 rounds?
Get those Savages going.
That's bizarre.
Savages going.
You know, they needed upgrades everywhere, including backups. So, you know, I really don't mind what they did. I love how, you know, blatant they were, and they went for it. Good on you, Browns.
Savage.
Subscribe to the channel. We got Steve on the boards. He's got the hat to go with the beard. You love to see it. I feel like, you know, we talked about this in the pre-draft episodes that we had leading up to the draft, that this was a great draft for coaching. This was a great draft for developing. This was a great draft if you want to find some Robins. All right, there was only about 3 or 4 Batmen in this draft, all right? And they all went very, very early.
Gannon.
But in terms of Robins, Mason Graham is a great Robin for Myles Garrett. All right, they got the same initials. You know, that should help as well. You know, you got a dominant guy on the interior. That's going to collapse the pocket and make life a little bit easier for Garrett to get to the quarterback. There were talks of the Browns, they were going to go for Carter if he was on the board.
Yeah.
You know, and you have Carter and Grant and Garrett on opposite sides. Good luck. You know what I mean? But again, the Browns did a great job of getting some Robins. Again, double dipping there, getting 2 quarterbacks now, a la Washington a couple years ago when they took RG3, traded $1 billion picks for him. But yeah, they took some guy named Kirk Cousins, and who ended up with the 2nd and 3rd and 4th contracts. It was Cousins. You know what I mean? So, you know, we'll get to Shedeur Sanders. There's a whole narrative around that. But just a couple more draft grades before we get to our respective teams. The Packers, the home team here, you know, they were the hosting team and hosting city there. They get a wide receiver in the first round for the first time since Vince Lombardi was head coach over there, and in Matthew Golden. They get another wide receiver in Savion Williams. And, you know, they double dip at edge with Baron Soren and Colin Oliver. You know, so the Packers were looking for impact players to make Jordan Love's job easier. And just looking for more impact players. You know, they got an A- from NFL.com. The Texans, round of applause for Texans. I got to give the Texans a round of applause. You know, they typically get rounds of applauses and then the playoffs happen. But, that aside, they get 2 wide receivers you and me both loved.
Absolutely.
They got my guy Jaden Higgins in round 2. They traded out of the first round with the Giants. And then they go get your boy, Jalen Noel, his teammate from Iowa State. So, man, the Texans, they were just like, C.J. Stroud, we're going to load you up with as many weapons as possible. You know what I mean? But the offensive line to get Ursary from Minnesota was big because the offensive line was a problem. They had one of the worst offensive lines in football. I felt like they should have gotten more. They only drafted 1 offensive lineman. They probably should have double dipped there. But other than that, I like their moves.
Yeah, they did, and I don't have all the names off the top of my head. You can Google them if you want real quick. But, Cam Robinson didn't come in. Laken Tomlinson didn't come in. I'm blanking on who the 4th guy is. But they brought in basically an entire offensive line around Jared Patterson from a couple drafts ago.
Yeah.
And that's what allowed Houston to do this, right? Because on paper, you look and go, I get that Dell's injured, but, you got Collins, you got Mechie, you brought in Berrios, who's a lock because of his special teams. Justin Watson's there. Christian Kirk you brought in. I mean, you basically brought in your wide receiver 3 and your wide receiver 7, and when Dell comes back, it's even more confusing. But, this is again, you're going to hear me, sorry, spoiler, you're going to hear me rant about the Jets in a minute. Free agency and draft, you need them to go together. You want them to go together.
Yeah.
Houston sets itself up to have a luxuries-only draft by being so relentless in building the trenches in free agency.
Dom DeMarcos, get him going. Get him going, Steve. Let's go.
Dom DeMarco.
Yeah, and again, we talk about it ad nauseum, team building. The draft is a fortification of team building.
Absolutely.
All right, if you're drafting like, the hopes and prayers of your season hinge on your draft, you're already setting yourself up to be in Cancun. You are. You've got to do, I'm not saying drop $500 billion in free agency, but you have to have a plan at least. And the teams that don't do that, again, they're in Cancun, they're in Colombia, come playoff time, and the teams that do the opposite, they're playing. They're playing January football. They're playing February football. So I gotta give some love to the Raiders too. Round of applause for the Raiders. They get my guy, Ashton Genty. The dream died. When the dream died, shout out to my boy Rob Mega. We toasted some bubblies to that when the dream died for Ashton Genty. But I love their early haul, man, of Genty. Jack Beck was one of my favorite under the radar receivers out of TCU. Darian Porter, a 6'2" corner. They got themselves some playmakers, and they double dipped at wide receiver, I believe. Yes, they did, and offensive line as well. Because again, if Pete Carroll's going to do one thing, Pete Carroll's going to draft a running back. It's not a matter of if, it's when. They take the best running back in the draft class. And speaking of running backs, round of applause to the running backs. The running back class was exactly what we thought it was.
Yeah.
This was generational. Yes, this was a generational running back class. And the Raiders took advantage by grabbing the cream of the crop. Rest in peace to Randy Savage and Ashton Genty. But I like what they did.
It's your boy, U-Goboy, and my friends at New York Posse. They're gonna hook you up with some official gear. The Knicks are hotter than ever, and they're gonna get you right with some official snapbacks, beanies, official gear, official like tissue, baby. Hit that promo code below, 2024. Get 20% off on all New York Posse gear. Hit the link below, and they're gonna get you right. It's your boy, U-Goboy. Yahtzee.